This is the story of Judith. Judith is an Israelite woman from the tribe of Simeon living in Judea, and she is a widow who's been mourning the loss of her husband for over 3 years when this story takes place. Other men have tried to court her, but she's completely uninterested because even though her husband left her very wealthy widow, she's been fasting and praying and just completely disciplined. Because of this, Judith is very well respected by the townspeople. She's built a reputation of wisdom and restraint. So, when the story opens with Nebuchadnezzar, and a quick clarification, this is not the same Nebuchadnezzar from the Book of Daniel, but an evil guy with the same kind of energy, and his goal is world domination and complete control over every single region he can get his grubby little hands on. Yet Israel refuses to comply, they won't submit, and they refuse to assimilate. They especially will not abandon the law or participate in customs of a foreign empire. So he sends his top general, this guy, Holofernes. Now, Holofernes is the embodiment of imperial arrogance and pagan masculinity. He believes the most effective way to rule is through fear. Maniacal and just completely drunk on power is an understatement for this guy. Now, as he starts planning to attack the Israelites, I guess word must have gotten out around the region, and he starts getting visits from representatives of Israel's extended and estranged family, the Ammonites and the Edomites. First, an Ammonite leader goes to him and they say, here's how Israel works. When they obey the Most High and his commandments, they're untouchable. But when they sin, they're weak and vulnerable because their God won't fight for them. Then we got the Edomite ruler. He shows up and he says, look, you don't even have to fight them. I know where they get water. All you have to do is siege them and cut off their water supply and let them die of thirst. So these guys do what we would refer to today as spill the tea. Now, Holofernes, he takes this intel and he uses it. First, he cuts off their water source. And even though the people are thirsty and scared, they're still hanging on somehow. And Holofernes, he's patiently waiting. I mean, he knows it's just a matter of time before the people start to compromise and start sinning. So, the siege continues a little while longer. And the people, well, they're praying to Yah, but he doesn't seem to intervene. And he doesn't seem to answer. So they become impatient. And eventually, the elders, they convene and they do something incredibly stupid. They say to one another, you know what, since God is not responding according to our timeline, we're going to have to give him a deadline. Smart, right? Well, they tell Yah, you have 5 days to intervene, and if you don't, we are going to surrender. Yes, they put an expiration date on the Most High. No prayer, no faith, but an ultimatum to the Most High. Now, when Judith hears about this, she says, absolutely not. You do not test the Most High. People who walk with him get tested. That's the point. So she tells the elders, I have a plan. So Judith prays, and I mean sackcloth, ashes, and complete humility. Remember, for the last 3 years, she's been mourning and fasting her dead husband. She's been wearing rough clothing made from camel and goat hair. You know, like a loose gray tunic that certainly wasn't pretty, definitely not flattering, and totally uncomfortable. But after her prayers, she removes her mourning clothes, she bathes, she anoints herself with oil and perfume, and she puts her hair in beautiful braids. She puts on her colorful maiden garments and her best jewelry, and she looks absolutely incredible, as if her husband was still alive. And it's like a complete transformation. She walks out of her house with complete confidence, and people notice. Heads are turning. But this is not about vanity. This is strategy. She tells her servant to open up the gate. And as she walks out toward the enemy camp, people are staring and they are whispering. Like I said, heads are turning. And she's walking like she already knows the ending. So Judith approaches enemy camp. The guards stop her. They're wondering, what woman is this? Where did she come from? And she tells them exactly what they want to hear. She says, we're cursed. My people are about to sin, and I'm going to tell you when. Well, naturally, they escort her to Holofernes. And when he sees her, he's already quite taken with her beauty and her presence. And she tells him the same thing, and he thinks, well, not only is she beautiful, but she's a spy and an ally. So he gives her a tent, freedom, and accommodations. So she stays in the camp, but she insists that she brought her own food and won't defile herself with unclean meat. She also tells him that she needs to go pray at night, and when Israel sins, she'll let him know. Holofernes, well, he believes her. Then one night, Holofernes is hosting a feast. And because he's still a little smitten with Judith, he sends his men to invite her. So they go to her, and Judith says, of course. And when she gets there, wine is flowing, and Holofernes is drinking. He's drank more that night than he ever has in his whole entire life. And he is as drunk as a skunk. And although she isn't drinking, Judith is pretending to be his +1 throughout the night. So when the festivities end, his servants, they close the door to his chambers, presuming that Judith and Holofernes want some privacy. They expect intimacy between them, but Judith expects something completely different. Holofernes, he's so drunk, he collapses on the bed in a drunken stupor, and he's completely passed out. And Judith, she knows, this is it. She prays silently, give me strength, not for myself, but for your people. So we don't exactly know what God said back to her after that prayer that she prayed, but she suddenly lifts up her sword, actually his sword, and then she cuts his head off with 2 huge blows to the neck. That's right. No seduction, no sex, and no sin, just precision. Then she cleaned herself off and put his head in her food bag. That's what she did, y'all. She calmly walks out without suspicion, no pursuit, no alarm, no guard stopping her. She passes through the camp like nothing even happened. Because Yah, he's covering her. She returns to the city and she calls the elders, and she opens up that bag and his head drops out, and everybody is shocked and they are in complete silence. And then a massive uproar of praise and celebration. Everyone is weeping at her victory. The next day, when the enemies wake up and realize they are leaderless, panic ensues. They scatter. The war is over. No battle, no more threats. Judith is honored. She doesn't seize power or leverage her position. She doesn't chase fame. She goes back to her normal life. And Israel, they remember this. Deliverance didn't come from strength or numbers or panic. It came from obedience, restraint, and timing. Now, full disclosure up front. It's debated whether this story was written as a strict historical record, but in the ancient world, that simply was not the point. Stories like this were written to form courage, reinforce faith, and teach obedience under pressure. And I encourage you to read this book for yourself. And if you want more stories like this, the ones that they didn't teach you, please subscribe.